name is HW, and boy, do we have an incredible amp that I've been working on. You know, it's no secret we've been on a mission to profile the world, and that means no stone or no amp can be left unprofiled. You get what I'm saying. This, my friends, is a very cool amp. It's something like a steel string singer. Actually, it is kind of a copy of a steel string singer. Now, there's a story behind this one I'll go into in a lot more detail in the podcast. But basically, in speaking to the people who made it and the person who owned it and whom it was made for, really no expense has been spared on this amplifier. It is a clone using a circuit trace of the famous Steel String Singer No. 2, which is now owned by a certain popular guitar player named John. It was circuit traced, I believe, before John owned it at Full Moon Music in Japan. I would categorize this amp as it really has that sound. It really has that sound. And it also has a bit of that Texas blues tone as well. It's terribly, terribly deep in the bottom end and wonderfully sort of soaring in the highs, and has these very unique filter controls that you can sort of put on and off. It almost, in a way, is sort of an advanced filtering kind of thing, not totally dissimilar than our beloved Kemper holds in its cabinet section of the high and low shift. It really reminded me a lot of an analog version of that sort of idea. I was very impressed with this amplifier, and I'd love to show you some of the sounds. But in a nutshell, we profiled this thing 3 different times with some of our favorite pedals, because at the end of the day, this is a very clean amplifier. This is not like the ODS. This is not like the two stone Bloom pack that we did. It's not like any of those amps. This thing is meant to be a big, huge, clean platform, and it's got big irons, and it just has a really interesting tone, a really beautiful tone. In the pack, you're going to find a bunch of numbers and a bunch of letters. I'll put those on the screen now, but those will be N, B, R, and J. And basically what that means is, you also see FET, F-E-T. And basically what that means is M is going to signify the normal input. There's a normal and a FET input on this amplifier, because if we use the FET input, we get actually another gain stage using a FET, an FET kind of transistor, which is supposed to behave almost like a tube. Then we're going to get the normal volume, which is actually going to control like the preamp level of volume that we're going to get. But this amp, even at the max volume, is not really meant to break up. It's almost like a high-powered Fender in that way. And it doesn't have the forward mid-range voicing of an ODS. So N is going to be the normal input. B is going to signify a bright switch, whether the bright switch was on or off. And then R and J are going to signify rock and jazz. We actually profiled this amp through 3 different cabinets, and we did that because it just sounds really good with a lot of stuff, but it always sounds like itself. So with the matching cab that you see here, there's this is an Alnico speaker. It's an Altec Alnico 15. Other than that, I know very little about it, other than it came out of some vintage organ, I believe, was told to me. It's a great speaker. It has a little bit of that Alnico flavor. Actually has a good amount of that Alnico flavor, and it makes this amp sound really beautiful. The other cab we were using, EVs, the Electro Voice speaker, that's a speaker that I believe is used by John. We also went with a very traditional Dumble speaker, which is a little more traditional on the ODSs, with the G1265s. And this is where I really think we captured a really beautiful open kind of high end. Even though those speakers aren't as trebly as, say, an EV, it has a way of making a beautiful present sound in the top end, and I think you're going to hear that. Okay, enough of me chatting. That sound I played at the beginning was the String Singer NBR3, and it's a beautiful, beautiful profile. It sounds like this. I'm playing this custom shop, my Goldie Strat. You guys know what it is if you watch the channel. Check it out. Here's the neck pickup. Now on a middle position. That is a wonderful sound, really wonderful sound. The rock and jazz settings on this amp, you know, we can kind of compare by coming to the J side of these. And rock just gives it a little more forward sound, a little more gain. And to compare that to a similar sound, you know, you're not going to get quite as much gain, but just a little cleaner. That's going to work a little more for like the jazzy stuff, and that's why it's kind of the jazz setting. Now to show you something a little more sort of just big, let me show you the FET in here, because the FET sounds, this is kind of as dirty as the amp gets, and I'll show you a couple of these. Here's on the neck, and you get a little more, but you don't get a forward mid-range, you know? Get a little more if you go to FET 3, and I'll go to like a in-between number 2 sound there. It's thick, it's big, it's silky, syrupy. What's the word I'm looking for? It's just thick, fat, powerful, but it's not overly mid-rangey. It's not ODS-like in that way. If you want the mid-range, you got to come over and you got to go to the 808s, man. You got to go to the 808s. So you put on the 808s and you get this kind of thing. That is tone, baby. Come on. That is some tone right there. Check this out. Man, that is a cool tone. That's a fun tone to play. It feels powerful. It feels big. Now listen, let me really quick, because I just want to show you these, and I'm going to give you some profiles for free, because that's how we do it. That's how Tone Junkie does it. What'd you think? What'd you think something was changing? Ain't nothing changing. This is an amp, man. Let me tell you. We're going to come over here, and I'm going to show you some 15s, because I want you to hear this 15-inch speaker and just hear it. So originally we heard the 15-inch speaker at the intro here, and here's like kind of like the same settings on the amp, but just with that 15. Do you hear the low there? Do you hear that? Alnico. Just, you gotta like pull it out. And it changes the snap on the top. It's a different thing. You might, if you listen on a phone or something, it's hard to appreciate all the nuance, but man. It's just, that is, come on, Uncle Willie, that is good tone. Come on, man. That is like, it's so Alnico. Woo! Okay, and then I want you to understand what the EV does. Here, EV, NBR3, same thing with the EVs. Now listen to this. Just a beautiful, beautiful sounding amp, and we made some beautiful sounding profiles, and we're really, really honored to have gotten this circuit in here. You know, hey, if you can get a real one, it'll set you back about 200 grand. So if I ever get a real one, you'll know I've really made it. I've won the lottery or something. But until then, this thing really sounds fantastic. Really, I could show you some of the specs and stuff on the inside. I ended up having to talk to the maker, the builder of this amp, to really find out about the iron and the tubes and everything inside. But it's a beautiful, beautiful amplifier. I might sell it. I might sell it. We're actually starting, I gotta move some gear. So there's gonna be some a new thing called Tone Junkie Vintage. If you watch to the end of this video, I guess you get the secret. Tone Junkie Vintage is gonna be some of our vintage stuff that's coming up for sale that you've seen in the collection around here. And this amp might be one of the sort of lead pieces when we launch Tone Junkie Vintage. It's not vintage, but it's a recreation of a really famous amp. So, hey, I'm gonna put some free profiles in the link below. I'll put some of the ones we played in here. Gosh, you know, just going on the John kick, you know, we put in the Blues Breaker pedal. Here's BB2. I've been HW.